Welcome back to the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast, and thank you for joining me for the last segment of the show where we're just going to go over Hard Knocks, who got selected. Obviously, as you see, the Chicago Bears were the team handpicked by the NFL to feature on this rendition of Hard Knocks, the training camp edition of the program. It was announced last week, actually, that the Bears will feature in this edition in 2024. And if you're not too familiar with Hard Knocks, a bit of context around the show and the different versions of the show, if you have gotten a little bit confused on who is actually on it. The entire series, the training camp series, debuted back in 2001 and has documented and followed 14 of the 32 franchises, with 4 teams being on there multiple times. I want to specify that the training camp edition of Hard Knocks has featured 14 of the 32 franchises. The other versions of the show, the in-season and now the other special edition, the off-season version, are different from just the training camp edition of Hard Knocks. So it seems a little bit confusing, but follow along with me. I'll try to explain it even more with the rest of the context I'll give you. This is now Chicago's first time ever being on Hard Knocks, part of a 5-episode series that will be shown on HBO and streamed on HBO Max starting on August the 6th. This series will follow the other edition of Hard Knocks that will happen first, Hard Knocks Off-Season, that will follow the New York Giants starting in July. I want to say July 2nd is when that starts, and that's the off-season edition of it. That'll follow the New York Giants, and then once that's concluded, it'll start with the training camp version, which will follow, obviously, the Chicago Bears. Again, like I mentioned, this is Chicago's first time being on this, following last year's hand-picked team in the New York Jets. You don't want to say it's the jinx, but not too confident. If I'm a Bears fan, you know how the Jets were selected last year. A lot of attention was put on them, a lot of hype, maybe a lot of pressure now added on by being the team on Hard Knocks and, having the season that they did last year. It's not like I'm not. I'm actually a big proponent of, I'm missing the word now. I can't think of the word, it just escaped my mind, but these sort of traditions of something happens, and if this happened to one team, now it could happen to you as well. But again, that was last year. The New York Jets were selected last year. Now the Bears will follow them up. The first time Chicago will be shown on this series. Also, the first time the show will have a rookie quarterback drafted at the number 1 overall spot feature on the show since 2018 with the Cleveland Browns, when Baker Mayfield was on there as their quarterback, selected number 1 overall as well. How were the Bears selected? Why were the Bears selected? Well, the NFL sort of follows this criteria a little bit. The NFL Films crew goes off of certain factors when deciding who gets to be on the show. Really 3 factors. One of them being that the team that is on Hard Knocks can't have a new head coach, so the Bears obviously fill that spot. The team that is selected also hasn't made the playoffs in the last 2 seasons. Again, the Bears check off that off the to-do list. And now, lastly, the team that is selected hasn't been on Hard Knocks in the past 10 years. And I mentioned this is the first time the Bears have been on. So the Bears were part of the New Orleans Saints and the Denver Broncos as the 3 teams that were really fitting all the criteria, and that were the final 3 to be selected. And obviously, with all the hype and news and just excitement around the Chicago Bears compared to the Saints and the Denver Broncos, no shade towards them, but it obviously seems more evident that the Chicago Bears would be the ones that were selected for this series. Also, the NFL Films senior director and supervising producer Shannon Furman explained that the Chicago Bears, in his quote, said that the Chicago Bears have a talented roster, coaching staff, and front office, all determined to match the expectations of a hungry fan base. So, again, following along in those lines of why they got selected. A lot of hype, similarly also to the Jets last year, where you get Aaron Rodgers, you get all these new pieces, and there's a lot of excitement there. They were put in the Super Bowl conversation last year. I don't think people are thinking that of the Bears this year, but Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Caleb Williams, DeAndre Swift with a young defense on the other side. yeah, people want to tune into that. People want to know what sort of conversations are going on behind the scenes. It does bum me out a little bit though, because I was sort of hoping they were gonna get selected for the in-season version of Hard Knocks, where this time it won't follow just one team but an entire division. So I was sort of hoping that the NFC North was going to be picked for that, to see not only this great team in Chicago, but also the Minnesota Vikings. Now, especially with Justin Jefferson getting his new deal, how does he, sort of gel with J.J. McCarthy? What discussions go on behind the scenes to get J.J. McCarthy maybe to start? Also, the Green Bay Packers following a great season last year, how do they follow that up? And the Detroit Lions, also a massive historical season last year, how do they follow it up as well? Because the Bears were selected for the training camp version, that means the NFC North division can't be selected for the in-season version of Hard Knocks. So a little bit bummed out by that, but I do understand why the Bears were selected based on the criteria and being the best selection out of the three that were left over. Head coach Matt Eberflus truly believed that quarterback Caleb Williams is and will be very well suited to handle even more eyeballs on him, with more people tuning into HBO and seeing the Hard Knocks documentary. More attention on him. He feels very confident in Caleb Williams just because he's had all the attention on him already, according to Matt Eberflus, and he's comfortable just being himself. I think that's been pretty evident throughout this offseason, throughout the draft process. Caleb Williams really doesn't care too much about what other people think of him. That's a great thing that I would want in my quarterback, my leader of an organization. So Matt Eberflus isn't really too worried about this maybe being a distraction to the team as well for a young team. Also, and linebacker Tremaine Edmonds also touched on this, and he believed that not only the Hard Knocks documentary, but also the London game and the Hall of Fame game, which the Bears will be playing in, he believes, and it just shows that the Chicago Bears are on the right path and that more people want to watch them because they are doing things right throughout the offseason, how they built this team. He believes that they're doing it the right way, and that's why people want to watch them. And I think that's a great point by Tremaine Edmonds, one that I really didn't think about when it comes to selecting these teams. If you're doing it right and people want to see you, maybe want to see you fail if they're not fans of you, but it just draw more eyeballs to your product, what you're putting out there on the field. It does make you believe really more in the Chicago Bears team, that they could truly be a legitimate team in 2024. But somebody that was on the fence a little bit, fellow rookie Rome Odunze, was a bit more cautious on being selected for Hard Knocks, mentioning before the fact that they were the final selection on the Hard Knocks series that he would prefer not to be on there just because of the fact that they're a younger team. But he won't be too bothered when they were selected, obviously. But he was a little bit more cautious and not too excited about it, like head coach Matt Eberflus was, or linebacker Tremaine Edmonds. But is it going to be a distraction? That remains the biggest question. Is this just too much on the plate for a quarterback that's trying to figure himself out as a person, but also on the field? All the pressure that Chicago now has on him. They finally have a quarterback, somebody that can take them to the promised land, get this young, exciting team over the hump finally. After decades of not having a legit franchise quarterback, Caleb Williams is the guy. He is the hand-picked guy now that will fulfill the prophecy to take the Chicago Bears to the promised land. Is now having a documentary, having cameras all in your face throughout the process, maybe a little bit too much. Again, this also plays into my idea of maybe not following them to be the training camp version on Hard Knocks, just because I wanted them to be the in-season one, also because you don't have too many cameras there when the series is focused on an entire division. Now, when this entire documentary is focused on you, it gets a little bit more in-depth, a little bit more personal, and that might become a bit of a distraction if you don't deal with it well. If you're rookies, you don't deal with being too personal up on these cameras, so that could become an issue. That's why I was still a little disappointed and a little bit cautious for selecting them. But the NFL isn't really too bothered about that. What's going to get more views? What's going to get more clicks? The Chicago Bears, who have all this young, exciting talent, have made a bunch of moves. This is the ideal team, as ideal as it can get for the NFL to select them, and it should be good as a fan. watching this, really how it all develops, hopefully into something good for the Chicago Bears. I think will be really interesting to watch, and I'm probably going to tune into it. I'm probably going to have to get a subscription to HBO, which sucks, but that's what good television, good negotiation does as well, I guess. If you're picking a good team, it makes people go out and get the subscriptions like I will most likely do. But the Bears will be the training camp version team featured on Hard Knocks this year. Are you guys for or against it? Do you guys think there was a better team out there? If you're a Chicago Bears fan out there listening, do you love this? Do you hate this? Leave it all in the comments section down below. But that'll do it for this edition of the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I want to thank you guys for tuning in today, and please remember to like, follow, and subscribe to the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast, as well as following us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok for more of the network's content. And also, if you want to see more of me and this show, check out the GSMC Sports Network channel and the GSMC Podcast Network channel on YouTube for YouTube Shorts that are posted every day. All the full live shows are recorded and posted on both channels, as well as individual segment videos. If you don't have time to watch an entire show, each segment of the live show is posted on there as well for you guys to enjoy. And as a reminder, tune in every weekday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time for more football conversations and NFL discussions with me, Manny Maradiaga, as your host. Thanking you guys for joining me today, and I will see you guys very soon, probably tomorrow.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to